everybody. What's going on? What's up? It's Glitter. What's going on in MIC? No, I'm joking. So today I got a wonderful comment from somebody who saw my video that I did regarding African Americans being negative about Ghana. And he made one of the greatest points I've ever seen. His name is Anubis. He said, why don't you do more content that talks about bridging the gap, bridging the diaspora divide, and talking about kind of like where I was coming from, what needed to be kind of like done for us to get together. And I don't know if you guys know, I have a nonprofit called Africa Everything, where we do work in all, we want to do charity work, empowering education-based and cultural and arts-based programming in Africa, West Africa. We've done 4 countries already. We've done Nigeria, Ghana, Liberia, and we're working on doing our Senegal leg, which we raised money for this year. And part of Africa Everything is also bridging the diaspora through travel, through cross-pollination, and through working together to figure out what we can do to make sure we learn more about each other and learn about our experiences and share experiences and kind of just know that we are the same and we are the same people and we're normalized, right? So with that said, first things first, I want to talk about me as a young woman born in Nigeria, Ghana Nigerian. I was born in Nigeria, back and forth. And when I went to school in Nigeria, one of the things that I realized was they didn't teach anything about slavery, because when I was going to school, I didn't know there was slavery. I didn't know there was anything about the transatlantic slave trade. I didn't know anything about civil rights movement. I didn't know. I knew nothing till I came to America. Then I came to America and they teach you a little bit in school. They teach you, and I was like, wow, this happened to, then I finally figured, oh, that's how people of color got here. That's how African Americans, that's how Black people got here, because they were stolen. So I don't even call it slavery. I call it enslaved, because some of them didn't do it by choice. Because sometimes when you're a slave, you can do it by choice. This was enslavement. So when I got here, I realized that there's more that I need to learn. There's more to know. There's more to learn as a young girl in America. So I was like, wow, I never knew this. So in doing that, and I remember fondly one of my junior high school, they had a thing where we had to do like a show and tell and talk about, and I was like one of the kids that was African in the African. So they wanted me to talk about Africa and how it was to be African. And people asked me questions. I'd have on my African outfit and they will ask me questions about being in Africa. Some of the questions were so jarring. People asked questions like, did you get here on a banana boat? I was like, eh? That's because if I'm on a banana boat, I don't think I would have got here. I may have just died at sea, because bananas would sink eventually going over 30 or 60 days overseas. So that was jarring. They said, did you swing on banana trees? Did you swing on trees? I was like, no, I didn't swing on trees. These thighs don't swing on trees. They don't swing on trees. So I was like, wow. And another question, do you guys run around naked? Naked. So these are kids that have TV, have different things to get information, and they were also schooled kids, and nobody was teaching them about what was going on in Africa and how we were also moving and prospering and industrially growing as Africa. So just to think about how they thought of me as a Nigerian, I was like, as an African, I was like, what is going on? This is not how it was in Nigeria. We have a lot of the things that you guys have here. It's not totally cutting edge or whatever, but a lot of the same things we have there. We have cars, we have drivers, the planes do land in the airports, things like that. So then I felt the way. I was like, wow, this is so ignorant. Like, because I'm here as an African trying to kind of tell them about it. And then they started making fun. One of the things that I really want to talk about, they made fun of Africans. The food you ate, oh, your food is stinky, you're this and you're that. Some of those like misnomers, those things that they didn't understand, about being African or African in America and things like that. So I think one of the biggest divides is misinformation and people just sticking to and learning about what's on the news, right? This is what happens. We don't cross-pollinate. There's more information now. I wish I grew up around this time, because easily you can Google and see what Africa looks like. You can Google and see how people travel and things like that. But back then they didn't have that. So just having that, and it's a point where the ridicule made me start to shun my African culture, my rich African culture, my rich African upbringing. I started to feel like, oh, okay, let me just become stealth and assimilate and just be this African American, right? So for a while, I kind of did not embrace a lot of my cultural stuff anymore. I started to turn away from it. And it was like maybe 8 years ago, 7 years ago, I started to really re-embrace all that is me, all that is my culture, learning everything that I didn't know. Also, remembering everything that I was brought up with by my mom. My mom is a travel agent. She traveled the world. She took us all over the world when we were little kids. So we've been to a lot of African countries, a lot of other countries. So I got that rich feeling, but there was just like, like, why would I step away from what it is that is me, right? So I want that. I don't want anybody to feel like that. I don't want any kids coming up in school that are African to be afraid to be African in their schools, to be afraid to say what their given names are because they're going to afraid of ridicule or they're going to be put down because their family is African. So that is I think that's one of the problems, the fact, right? That African Americans look down on Africans and then Africans look down on African Americans. Some, not all. Everybody now is open. We're getting more progressive. People are getting more progressive. There's still ignorance. Let's be real clear about that. So how can we bridge that divide? The divide is the fact that we have to talk to each other. We have to ask those questions. We can't make assumptions. We can't make broad stroke comments, regarding where people are from, where people are at. If you go to Skid Row is not a place that I would call luxurious or somewhere that I want to stay. I would call that a little bit on the banjy side, right? But there's places in America, places in Europe and France, and there's places where there's absolute poverty, people living on top of each other, people are cohabitating, and people are doing some of the things that you do see in Africa. So like there's rich, there's poor, there's middle class, right? So how do we start? I think the first step is really like what's starting to happen. People starting to travel to the continent and travel. You don't have to move off the grip. Travel, experiences, see how it is. See if you feel comfortable there. If you don't feel comfortable with the heat, you don't feel comfortable with the food, maybe it's not for you. You don't feel comfortable with that kind of what's going on. But there's so much history. Do you know 1 in 7 African Americans in America is Nigerian due to the transatlantic slave trade? And I hadn't even been to Cape Coast or Elmina till maybe about, was it 5 or 6 years ago. That was the first time I've ever been there. And I kept on going back since then, right? That was the most groundbreaking and mind-changing thing that ever happened in my life, because I felt the ancestors. I felt what happened. Now I knew it in the flesh. I've heard it, I've read it, but to sit in the dungeon and feel the atrocities that happened in this space with your people on the other side, as people are carted and taken advantage of, raped, killed, maimed, made to feel less than. And for these same people to go across the transatlantic slave trade and still be able to build Western worlds, to still persevere, to have people go through the civil rights movement and to go through all of that shit, let's be real clear, and be able to stand proud and loud and say, I'm Black and I'm proud. That is the energy and the power. And to know that we are the same people. I know there's a group that I heard about that says that if you can't trace yourself back to 4 generations of slaves, you're not Black or African American. I didn't know that, because everybody's African. If you're Black or brown, even Afro-Latinos, yeah, African. Like, you're African. We were taken away and spread out through the Caribbean, through Latin America and Americas, right? Those are that's in this realm. And a lot of them were West African. And even in West Africa, people were enslaved in West African proper, working and mining the resources and goods. Don't think that there wasn't slavery there. There was slavery in another realm of it, right? Another sense of it, where people were used. So some were left there, some were taken, but eventually, you know, colonization, and then, you know, these like what you call independence, which are not independence, because every African country is still being moved by the puppet master. There is not any really African country that's not being moved by the puppet master. There's very few that have their own say here and there, but they're controlled by the West, right? And the fact that Africa feeds the world is very important for us to realize that the resources in Africa is what keeps the world running. So you may not like that it's not, but they make sure that they don't keep these places, they don't get these places too over modernized to make it too attractive for people to leave, right? Do you think they really want African Americans to go to Africa? No. Why do you think the tickets are so high? Why is a ticket so high to Africa compared to other countries? You go to London for $300 if you want, maybe $200. You catch to, but if you want to go to Ghana, you're going to be paying $1,200, $1,300, $2,000, depending on what kind of ticket you want or what time you book. So there's a reason that they keep us away from each other, and they keep us infighting, to keep us thinking less of each other. It's because they don't want us to know that there's greatness in numbers and in togetherness. I tell you, when people of color get together, Oga Oyibo is not going to know what's going to happen to him. You know, and not to say that we don't have allies and people that look out for us, but the reality is the fact that they don't want us to experience Africa. When you go to Africa, guess who's vacationing there? Caucasians, white folks. They vacation there more than us. They're on the beaches. They enjoying life. They enjoying Nunu with the women and the men there and all those things. So be very clear that we have to start organizing and working together to create a true movement, a movement that is not about taking advantage of each other, a movement about cross-pollination and cross-learning from each other, where we realize that if we work together, our dollars move further, because they work together, put their money together, make things happen. So how can we work together to better it? However, the way that you call better, is what we call better really better? Or are we just enslaved in these places as well, too? Because, you know, working a 9-to-5 for 65 years of your life and then collecting your Social Security seems a little bit like enslavement, too, sometimes, right? Even though, you know, so there's so many like ebbs and flows about it. But I'm so glad that he made me kind of, that's a little bit of my story of who I am. I can talk more if you want to know more about it. But I definitely want you guys to drop ways that we can work together. Let's think about it. Let's be strategic. Let's make this happen for real. You know, I know that people are like, oh, that people are showing the greatness of it. Of course people are going to show the greatness of it now, because the bad has been shown for so long. And yes, it's okay to show the greatness and the powerfulness and the regalness of Africa. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because for so long you saw the hungry babies and the dirt poor things. No, let's show all of it. The good, the bad, the ugly, and the in-between. That's the point. So that's my rant for today. It's Glitter. I hope you liked and subscribed though. And ring the bell icon, because I have subscribers, but nobody's ringing the bell icon. Did I do something? Did I vex your ancestors? Let me know. Let me know if I vexed your ancestors. Oh yeah, hit the like button. Hit the notification. Support the sister. It's Glitter. Look forward to talking to you soon. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.
It's me too, baby. Dope Nation. Give me 2 shots on the regular.